Good morning, everyone, and welcome to NPU Live. I'm Keri Rodriguez.
And I'm Tim Langen.
It is a beautiful Monday morning. It is May 4th. Can you believe it?
Happy Star Wars Day.
Yes, May the 4th be with you. It's also a very special day.
That's right.
It's Dylan's birthday.
That's my youngest son,
That's
Dylan.
Right. Dylan is turning 7. So an exciting weekend.
That's right. It was a crazy weekend. Lots of cake. Lots of Chinese food.
There was a lot of green food coloring, which is all over this house right now, because if you've ever had to make creeper cupcakes, they require green food coloring.
That's right. That's a Minecraft reference.
Yes. Oh, please. Anyone, I'm sure
anyone with a kid by now
tuned in right now knows what a creeper is, knows all about Minecraft, boy or girl.
If you don't know now, you will soon.
You will. So there is a lot of food coloring. Let me see your tongue. It might still be.
It came off.
There was a lot.
I spent 2 days scrubbing it off.
A lot of green cupcake going on here, but it was an awesome day.
It was really good. Cupcakes were great.
Yeah.
Cupcakes were great.
Yeah.
That's right. And today later we're gonna do a little drive-by at his mom's house. Honk the horns a little bit, wake up the neighbors.
I hear there might be a fire truck that is coming by. That's very exciting.
That's right.
But you know what? Yeah, it was very interesting. You know, even though it was a pandemic birthday, and you're hearing like it's, you know, these pandemic birthdays are tough. He actually had a great day. He was living his best life.
So the one thing you got to know about Dylan, he's all about Dylan. He doesn't, you know, the world revolves around Dylan, more so than the normal. Now 7-year-old, I have to get used to that. He's fine. He gets some Minecraft stuff. He got some little plushy Minecraft toys. He got some cupcakes. He's good to go.
And I was talking with your dad about, you know, when you were a kid, or when I was a kid, probably when you were a kid too, we used to go through, you know, the Toys R Us brochure or the circular circle things. Yep. Well, they don't really have that anymore. Nope. So the equivalent is when you hop on mom or dad or Keri's phone and you look at Amazon and go down the Amazon hole.
That's right.
And so he went down the Amazon hole a couple weeks ago, and boy, oh boy,
he did. He did okay.
So parents out there, you want to find out, because like, how else do you find out? It's hard nowadays to figure out like what kids want for their birthdays.
I know.
So like, let them go down the Amazon hole.
Yeah.
Let them make a wish list, and then
here you go. Here's my phone. That's the only time I give you my phone. Wow.
Minecraft plushies were no, actually the biggest hit Tim found on Facebook.
Wait.
Where is it?
You keep talking.
Biggest hit ever, a Facebook toy.
Hold on.
It was a dragon, okay, that actually walks across the floor. It walks across the floor and it breathes fire. This kid's mind was absolutely blown by this simple toy. Tim is going to bring it in.
Okay.
It's pretty epic.
Okay. Get this.
Check this out.
Get this.
Dad made the whole birthday.
You gotta wait. This is going to take a little bit, but watch what happens.
It's worth it, people.
Watch.
It's coming.
I know Dylan's mom isn't watching, so it's okay. I do get the best toys. Here it comes. Hold on.
Wait for it.
Wait. Look at that.
Can you see that?
Yeah, they can see it.
My goodness.
Look at that. Look at that.
So the moral of the story is those little Facebook ads that you see that have the cool toys, sometimes they work out.
Sometimes they show up. Not always. I was betting about 333 this year.
Yes, sometimes 5 of them show up, like in the case of the dragon. There were many dragons that arrived here. But in the end, Dylan got a dragon that was amazing.
And the point is I got the best birthday present.
Well, I got to say, yeah, you did.
Just saying.
You killed the birthday.
I killed the birthday.
Very exciting weekend. Also, I don't know what's happening in your house, folks, but attitudes have blossomed. Not only have the trees blossomed, the flowers blossomed, but everybody has
if I could put a mask
next level attitude
over faces this weekend, and I could have put masks over a few hundred faces this weekend, I would put a really tight mask over my kids' faces. Whatever covered up their mouths and their attitudes.
Yeah, we want to share this with all of you because frankly, we're not just providing you resources. We need help too. We're moms and dads here. What is going on in your house?
Ooh.
Is it a full moon? Is it just us? Maybe it's just us. I don't know. Every parent I've been talking to, because I've been seeking solidarity, saying, "Oh my gosh, what is going on with these kids? His kids, my kids. Seems like everybody else's kids attitudes in full blossom. And I know it's week 8 of the quarantine, but this weekend, boy, oh boy, the eye rolling.
They're upset that they can't go outside. You take them outside. They complain that they're outside. It's too hot. They have to walk too far. I'm like, guys, you don't know what tired is.
Yes, it was a lot.
You don't know what
it was a lot.
You don't know what tired is.
Yes. So, extraordinary weekend when it comes to a next level.
That's right.
So tell us, what are you doing with your kids? What did you do with your kids this weekend? And give us some tips. We're constantly bringing people on this broadcast to give you tips. We need help.
Help me, please.
Help.
God.
What did you do with your kids to keep them busy this weekend? When it was nice and warm, a lot of folks really nice and warm, enjoying the weather.
Right.
But what did you do with this weekend to keep them busy? One of the things that we did too was drawing with sidewalk chalk.
That's right. I'll be posting that picture of NCIS Somerville, Massachusetts on a National Parents Union page.
Because the most fun thing you can do with little boys is to take some sidewalk chalk and draw an outline of your body.
Yep, that's right. Take a random person, preferably someone, have them just 6 feet away, and then draw a little outline.
Yeah, so it looked like it was a homicide crime scene in front of.
I look like a Kaiju big battle wrestler.
That's right, because he had the muscles up there, but it was great. That's how
I roll. How I roll my muscles here.
Anyway, a beautiful Monday morning.
Beautiful Monday morning.
We need your tips. Send your tips to info@npunion.org.
That's right.
Or hit us up in the comments.
That's right. And if you have tips, topics, guests you wanna hear from on our show, maybe we can get them. Again, info@npunion.org.
All right, what's in the news?
Oh, the news. It's Monday. This news is giving me a case of the Mondays. And then some. So I keep looking at the numbers from the Friday show to the Monday show. And I'm really in awe of what's happening here. For a couple of reasons. So the cases in the country have jumped from 1,100,000 to 1,180,000 confirmed COVID-19 cases.
So we went from just over 1 million to over. It's almost to 200,000.
That's crazy. And then the deaths. The deaths were 56,000 on Friday. They have jumped to 68,286 confirmed. So that's just over a weekend. We're talking about 3,000 a day now. It's scary. It's scary. And I think what really scares me is not to put some opinion here in the news, but as we do, that restrictions are actually getting looser across the states. So to give you an idea, this Monday, Florida, Colorado, Indiana, Nebraska, South Carolina, and West Virginia are going to be easing restrictions. Many already did. In different parts of California, not statewide, but in certain parts, they are also easing restrictions.
And in some of these areas where we saw the restrictions being lifted, we're already seeing skyrocketing numbers for COVID-19. That's it. What else can we say? If you're opening now, you're putting yourself at risk. And as we mentioned, last week in the broadcast, unfortunately, what this can mean is we are going to have folks having to learn this lesson of extraordinary numbers of death, people who are put on ventilators. The second wave is going to come.
Right.
We know that this is going to happen. We've been told by medical experts that this is going to happen, that we can anticipate it in the fall. How bad do you want it to be?
Right.
And frankly, we know everybody's got an attitude, little kids and grown-ups alike.
Some adults too.
There are a lot of folks that, want to get out, want to enjoy the weather. It is, the beginning of, it's mid-spring, beginning of the summertime. We get it. But now is the time to get creative, in terms of how you can enjoy yourself while keeping yourself safe.
Yes.
How can you be outside and be safe at the same time? Because the consequences are real. And unfortunately, we're seeing some of these folks, they're going to have to face these consequences in a very real way before they actually get it.
Yeah, I'd like to play the long-term game with these guys. I'm not just trying to get through the summer here. Fall's going to come, school is going to start. Hopefully not. I don't know what's going to happen, but school on a good time in September is a petri dish.
Yeah.
So I'd like to go in there with the least amount of corona.
Well, gosh, when you think about it, like when your kids go back to school in the fall,
yeah,
in a normal time, I mean, it really is a petri dish.
Oh, everyone's getting sick.
Everybody's getting sick. Everybody's all on top of each other, you know, regardless of like, and I again, like we're having this conversation in the National Parents Union. We're having this conversation with our individual affiliates across the country. What are we looking for in terms of safety precautions so that we as parents can feel comfortable sending our kids back into buildings? Because, you know, not to always make it about me, but it is about me and my babies for me. And I have 3 little boys and they're all over each other and they're all over their friends. And how are we going to teach them in a very real way? Like you can't touch each other. You can't wrestle. You can't sit right next to, like, that's not who they are. They're little boys and they're fidgety little
that's what they do.
Things. And that's what they do. That's, you know, so how do you protect it without a vaccine? Like without some assurance that we know.
And that's about a year, 18 months away tops.
And we've got to say this too, okay? We understand in a very real way about what parents are going through right now. Our parents that are part of the National Parents Union, part of our affiliate network, all of these folks, what we're hearing right now is, you know, our parents are the essential workers that are on the front lines. There are hotels that are opening. One story in particular that, you know, I was talking with some parent advocates and some families on Friday, talking about the fact that because these restrictions are lifting, hotels are opening, different businesses are opening, schools are not open right now. Babies are having to stay at home by themselves when they're very, very young. Parents aren't sure what to do. Parents are now in the position where they're exposing themselves to COVID-19. If they say no, they're going to lose their jobs. Will they be eligible for unemployment? It's a whole, like when we make these decisions, you know, based on politics, and force people where they feel, well, I got to work. I have to take care of these kids. Like you're leaving them with no choice but to go to work, and you're throwing people into chaos. So we need strong leadership in this moment. Unfortunately, we're not getting it in many states, and you know, we're going to have to watch this very, very closely. So we're committed to giving you the best information, resources. I'll let you know that we're trying to figure this out too, and we're going to figure it out together. That's what this broadcast is all about.
Well, speaking of states that could maybe use some stronger leadership because they are opening up, they are easing restrictions. Colorado office is going to open up 50% with 6 feet distance between employees. Florida allows elective surgeries. Restaurants are going to open for outdoor seating, 25% capacity inside. Nebraska, churches, salons, and restaurants can reopen. South Carolina, you can work from home is voluntary, or you can go in. You can go in if you want to. And Vermont, the governor issued an executive order, and he's expecting people to return. And there's all these new safety rules, specifically around manufacturing, construction, and distribution. They can operate with 10 or fewer employees. Well,
thankfully, we're seeing a lot of folks in the business community making their own decisions around this stuff too. So the business community saying, hold on a second. We're not sure we're ready either. So it's going to be a mixed bag. And unfortunately, what comes with a mixed bag is the need for all of us to kind of assess our own safety levels. Because if you can't be sure that other folks are being safe and what measures and precautions, if they're coming from other states, if they're, you know, doing other things, you've got to just make your best decisions based on what's right for your family. And so what we're doing is following the CDC guidelines around social distancing, making sure our noses, our mouths are covered. Here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, it's a $300 fine if you are not protecting yourself, you're not covering up. So it's really very, very important to make sure that you're keeping covered up and following those guidelines.
I'm gonna do a little how-to.
In
case it's complicated, guys. You can time me. If you think it's easy to sign up for preparedparents.org.
Wait till you see
watch
how
this.
Easy
it's even quicker. Watch, no autofill on my email.
It's on.
It's on, guys. It's on.
It's that.
It's on. It's on. That goes out to runners. That goes out to cyclists. That goes out to skateboarders.
That goes out to people in the supermarket.
That goes out to the guy on the cell phone standing in the middle of the block on Washington Street the other day that I had to loop around. Just go in there. You know what industry, and I'll wrap with this, that I'm happy is actually taking this seriously?
Tell me.
And put out an article today about I think, very realistic expectations. That's the concert and theater industry.
Mm-hmm.
They are very honest about where they're at, that they will be the last to open up, probably 18 months to 2 years. So I love going to see live bands play, but they're honest. It's going to take a couple of years.
Yeah, we're not even joking. I mean, Tim and I probably go to at least a week.
I have logged every single concert I've ever seen.
He has.
Since I saw Pantera, Sepultura, and Biohazard at Great Woods in 1994. I've got them all listed. Never listed.
You wouldn't have seen me.
Well, I wouldn't go there again, but it was fun. But the point is, when you think about it, think of how close people are in a crowd anyway. Think of the logistics as far as technicians and performers. They cannot stay 6 feet apart. It cannot happen. And like some musicians said, especially if you're in a big touring group, I don't want to get on a plane. So it's a bummer.
It's crazy, you know. When you think about how drastically your life has changed, that's like the thing that Tim and I do together all the time is we always go to see music.
That's
the
right.
Last show we went to was Patti Smith in San Francisco, at the Fillmore.
Yeah.
It was at it was what, a week.
Week before the shutdown.
Second week of March.
Yep.
We were standing in a crowd of hundreds and hundreds of people. And you know, I'm a musician myself, so that's where I find, you know, soul and, you know, connection with God and all kinds of things. And you know, that is something that, you know, you think isn't a sacrifice, but it is. You know, to how do you feel your life and your heart? But that's what we've got to do right now.
Yep.
And
it's worth it.
You know, there's different ways, and artists are adapting. They're going online. They're doing live streams, and
that's right.
You know, we're coming up with new ways too, and to enjoy them and to support them in these moments.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, I was watching the specials.
Oh,
I'm a big I was watching the specials. I was watching Selector.
Nice.
Some of the music that I enjoy.
I mean, my first Johnny Legend concert was online.
Right. Was online, and you loved it.
I loved it. He was fun. He's okay.
John Legend singing some Stevie Wonder.
I like that he lets me call him Johnny. Yeah. So, but anyway, guys, it's gonna be a great week. Tune into the rest of our shows. Tuesday, tomorrow. Oh, great. We're going to have Angelica on, Solis Montero, Jennifer Iahout. Wednesday, we have LaShawn Garrett. Oh, Kalia from Minnesota. Kalia Pringle's going to be on Thursday. Minnesota Parents Union. This is going to be a wonderful week, guys.
And Rosario from Amplify Latinx. Yes, we love her.
That's going to be great.
And it was her birthday this weekend, so happy birthday, Rosario.
A lot of cupcakes this week. Well, listen, I'll turn it over to you and a guy that really knows how to adapt.
That's right. And we're going to check in with New Orleans, see how it's happening down in Louisiana, the birthplace of the National Parents Union. Our friend Peter Cook joining us live. He is a tremendous and incredible education reform activist and advocate, and a wonderful brain when it comes to all things education. He's a writer, a speaker, and a consultant, all kinds of things. And he's joining us live from New Orleans. Peter, welcome. It's so nice to see you.
It's so good to see you. I'm happy that to see you happy, healthy. I'm jealous of your Patti Smith concert that you got to go to. I wish I had done something fun before this all came down, but
well, we didn't know that was going to be our last show, and
I know,
frankly, like we had, it's kind of hurting my heart a little bit. You know, every time I see like all of these shows, like this, the past couple of weekends, we were going to go see the Mummies in Brooklyn.
Wow.
We're gonna go see like all of these really cool bands. We had big plans for this year, but you know, we're thinking about, you know, maybe next year, maybe the year after, going to South by Southwest, catching up in one fell swoop. But yeah, it's really hard, and frankly, you mourn that loss. You know, you mourn the loss of, you know, things that enjoy and kind of get you out of your own head, and it's just hard. But in this moment, it's really important to support those guys too. Incredible artists and musicians that are, I think we have a deeper appreciation for them. And
like this past week and the weekend before, I usually Jazz Fest in New Orleans, which is like a huge event. And, you know, I think that like the entire city, there's a local radio station, WWOZ, which is like kind of the jazz and heritage station here, and they played essentially like 2 weekends of sets from past Jazz Fest, just to like, you know, and people are like, they're like fest in place, and so people were like in their front yards, you know, listening to music out out on a blanket like they might be at Jazz Fest, but you know, it's those kind of things that like you realize how much you miss just the regular life instead of being in your house all the time. But you know, we're making it work.
Yeah, and you guys are always so creative in making it work. I love watching you on Facebook, your food trials and tribulations, what you guys are coming up with. So how are you doing in New Orleans? How's your New Orleans treating you, and how's your family?
Family's good. You know, things are. I'm getting a lot of gardening done. The dog has never been walked so much. You know, it's been beautiful here too, which really helps. I mean, it's kind of weird to have this, you know, pandemic, and like this spring has just been really nice. It's been really sunny. It's been warm, but not too humid. So, you know, we're spending a lot of time in the backyard. But, you know, I mean, overall, in terms of me personally, it's been great. You know, Louisiana has been hit pretty hard by the coronavirus, and we've extended our stay-at-home order at least through the middle of the month. And schools have been closed since March 13th. So like, there's a lot of parents who are learning how to do this, you know, teaching at home thing. But like a lot of schools have been really innovative, whether it's using Instagram and Facebook and other ways of communicating with their kids and checking in. And my partner, Shoshana, works at a local New Orleans school, and they've been providing meals to kids. You know, as of last week, I think like local New Orleans public schools had served 660,000 meals to families. So like the community's really stepped up. But you know, like there's so many unknowns in the future that I think people are waiting to kind of figure out, especially around education. Like, you know, how's the school year going to start? You know, how are schools going to react? What are the things that we need to do to make up some of this lost learning time? I mean, parents are trying to obviously, you know, do the at-home schooling thing, but you know, in a lot of ways, sometimes it doesn't really. It's not the same as being in a classroom every day, and so, you know, there's just a lot of unknowns so far. So I think that causes a little anxiety for folks.
Let's jump into this because, you know, New Orleans has been through so much, and as a city, period.
Yeah.
Louisiana as a state, but educationally, you know, it has been through so much, a revolution down there, so many changes, so many of evolutions of what education used to look like and what it looks like now.
Yeah.
Always the subject of conversation, sometimes the subject of controversy as well. But
yeah,
you know, you guys have really had to figure things out in a brave new world, and that's why I really was so anxious to talk to you, because you know, you actually did time as an educator in you know, being a TFA corps member, and then going in there and helping them to lead a brave new world of education post Katrina. So, you know, I want to kind of take you back to that experience, what that was like. Could you talk to us, like, and just kind of frame it out for us? Give us your context of what it was like for you, having to go in there after a period of extraordinary trauma in New Orleans. And compared to this moment, how does it feel?
I mean, I think there's a lot of differences, but there are a lot of parallels. So like I was teaching after Katrina, and I was working in a local New Orleans public school here run by the Recovery School District, which had taken over a lot of the schools in the city after the storm. And, you know, you just had a lot of kids. I think probably the closest parallel is that we're just going to have a lot of kids who are coming back, and there's been a lot of learning loss, right? We had a lot of students who had come back, and they, you know, some of them hadn't been in school for a year. Some of them hadn't been in school in 6 months. And so trying to identify who those kids are, figure out where they are in terms of, you know, like, are they on grade level? Like unfortunately, because our school system struggled so much before Katrina, there were a lot of kids who were several grade levels behind of where they should have been. And so, you know, trying to figure out where everyone is, trying to remediate, you know, those kids who are the farthest behind. Like if you have a sixth grader coming in at a third grade reading level, like you want to make sure that you're giving those kids as many supports to kind of hopefully catch up with the rest of their class. And that's a hard thing to do. And because of the way that we don't know when schools are going to reopen, how they're going to reopen, what that's going to look like in the fall. I mean, school's supposed to end around May 15th this year. Usually starts up in the first or second week of August. Like down south, we kind of go back to school earlier than you guys do up in Massachusetts and other places up north. But, you know, August is not that far away in the big scheme of things. And so, and we lost testing this year, so we don't really have a good gauge of where kids kind of ended up the year. So I think it's going to involve, I know a lot of people are talking about kind of doing testing on the front end, kind of diagnostic testing to see where kids are, because, you know, some kids are probably getting a lot of instruction at home. Some kids probably less so. I mean, I know schools have really made a push to, like, the district itself, they bought 10,000 Chromebooks almost immediately, 5,000 Wi-Fi hotspots. Schools have been distributing their own laptops to make sure that kids can access it. But, you know, there's going to be gaps. And I think that, you know, schools are trying to figure out how do they identify those gaps once school finally does restart. That was what we tried to do with varying degrees of success. But I mean, I think that,
I want to double click on that and kind of get into that piece. You know, first and foremost is, I think, building confidence in parents and families that it's okay to send our children back to school. That's step number one.
Yeah.
You know, I find is not really being taken very seriously by a lot of folks in the education policy space, which I find fascinating.
Yeah.
At this point, as I sit with my three little boys, like Matthew, Miles, and David, they're the reason I do this work, why I get in these fights, why I breathe, you know. And when I think about schools reopening, you know, I have to feel as a mama that I am sending them, I mean, we're sending them into public buildings. And I have to be able to trust that those buildings have been maintained. Frankly, you know, where we live in the Northeast, you have school buildings, and frankly, everywhere. They're falling down. They don't have hot water. Some of them don't have running water. They don't have functioning bathrooms. I don't know how often these buildings are being cleaned. What the procedures are going to be. What happens if, you know, my babies are in a class and, you know, they or a fellow student starts to engage or have symptoms of COVID-19, how do I find out about it? What happens then? You know, and how, the fundamental question for me as the mama of three little boys, and you as an educator, you probably know this too, how do you keep little boys from touching each other, from running around, and how in a system that we know is you know, disproportionately prone to, you know, excessive discipline of children of color, you know, how do we rate, you know, is that a disciplinary action? Who gets bounced at? Like, there's just so many questions before we get to learning loss and assessment and everything else. So you know, it just seems like a really big question. And without a vaccine, like, how do we figure this out? And
I mean, there's
to have families at the table in this decision making, because unless I'm at the table at this point, I'm not going to trust, you know, that I'm not just going to hand my kids over to a group of folks that are going to try to figure it out and hope for the best. Like, that's not good enough. This is life and death.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big question is, like you were saying earlier, if there's going to be that second wave, and that second wave that comes in the fall, like, what does that look like in a classroom? Like, if you have one kid who comes and he ends up positive, or someone in his family ends up positive, or her family, like, does that mean that all the kids go home for 14 days? Does that mean, or a teacher comes down positive with COVID-19? Does that mean all the classes that teacher has interacted with, all those kids are going to be, you know, home for 2 weeks or whatever? It's like, we don't have those answers. And I think this is true here, and it's probably true a lot of places. That type of parent engagement that you're talking about, in terms of having this conversation, laying out what's going to happen, hasn't really necessarily happened, unfortunately. But it needs to happen. And I mean, I maybe that means like really big Zoom calls, you know, but there needs to be discussion about how we're going to do this and what's it going to look like, and how often are they checking school? How often are they cleaning schools? What is recess going to look like? What is gym class going to look like? And those are all things that I think there aren't a whole lot of good answers for necessarily, but we need to put parents' minds at ease that if they are sending their children off to school every day, that it's going to be as safe as if they were at home, or hopefully as close as possible, right?
We asked questions about this assessment issue.
Yeah.
That is something that is the next step. Once we say, okay, we're willing to engage again,
yeah,
put our kids back in, what do we do with these kids? So I want to double click on that piece too, because this is what we find fascinating as well. To me, I don't know how you bring kids back into a school system after going through this unprecedented challenge and trauma. You know, when I think about New Orleans, I think about the trauma of an entire generation of kids that were displaced because of a historic event. You know, now all of our kids are there, right? This is a historic event. We have to change how we interact socially. We can't walk down the street and say hello. We have to fear other people walking down the street if they don't have a like trauma. You know, on all different levels too, with, you know, parents who have lost jobs and the instability, like just trauma, compounded trauma.
Yeah.
These kids are coming back in. There have been different levels of engagement with academics. As you were saying, you know, yes, Chromebooks are out there, hotspots are out there, but digital literacy issues are real. Whether or not kids are utilizing technology, whether or not they've engaged with any material, it's going to be a mixed bag. So how you do this without assessment is beyond me. But what that assessment looks like is also a point that I'm saying, and I hear advocates across the country talking about. This needs to be hand in hand in relationship with direct coordination with parents who have been the primary facilitators of any educational experience over a 6, 8, however long period. We have a lot of data and information. We do this in the special ed space where it's required to have those home assessments, parent input when we're developing IEPs. Is there a world, do you think, where we transition and say every kid is going to need a personalized learning plan or an IEP? And how did you guys handle it there so that you could figure out where kids are and how to best help them? Do you have some best practices?
I mean, I would say so I've been asked this question, and I wish that we had done something more like that, because I think a lot of kids did fall through the cracks when they came back. I mean, I think some schools did it better than others, but I think that because not only back after Katrina, not only were we trying to, you know, teach kids and do the things that schools do every day, we were trying to rebuild schools. We were trying to restaff schools. We were trying, you know, when Katrina flooded New Orleans, not only did you lose the school building, but you lost the computers and the paper and the copy machines. And so there were so many things going on at once. I wish that we had done a better job at that, what you're talking about. But sitting down with parents and having those discussions, I think, at least I've seen here, that a lot of schools are starting to have those conversations now. Like, I know that at my partner's school, like, everyone's assigned a group of families, and they're individually contacting each parent, seeing how things are going, asking them what they need, if they need, you know, if they need technology, what their work is doing. Hey, we haven't seen you guys logged on lately. Like, having those conversations to make sure that they're making sure that kids aren't falling through the cracks. I think a lot of schools are doing that. I can't say that all schools are doing that, but I think that's important. But we're going to need to have that conversation, especially as it's going into the fall, in terms of, you know, where's your child? This is where your child is. This is what your child needs. Because there's gonna have to be some coordination with parents, because we don't know whether we're gonna be going back and forth between school and home, or, you know, whatever, if there's a second wave. So I think that those discussions are starting to happen now, need to continue to happen, especially over the summer. But thankfully, I think there's a lot of, you know, opportunity. And also there's a real desire among teachers that I've seen who really, like, you know, they really do miss seeing their kids. They really want to make sure that they're ready for the next year. And so they're doing all kinds of crazy things, whether they're putting YouTube videos up and doing all that, which is awesome. But I think that, like, there needs to be a coordinated effort to make sure that every single kid is getting those touch points, several touch points, even over the summer, because we're kind of compounding learning loss that happens during the summer with this pandemic now, and so like the challenge is twice as big. In terms of, I just wanted to go back and touch on something. In terms of one of the things that we did learn from Katrina, because there was a lot of researchers who came after the storm to study the trauma issue. What they found, generally speaking, was that younger kids, like the younger that you went, the more resilient they were in terms of like how they bounced back. High schoolers, though, in particular, had a really tough time. And like when we saw kids fall through the cracks, what was like kind of 8th grade and above. And so like, I think that we have to think about it that way. Like your first graders, your second graders, your third graders, like they're going to be okay. They'll come back from this. There's going to be a learning curve, obviously, for them. We're going to have to redouble our efforts to catch them up. But in terms of like the trauma piece and kind of like the disorienting of life, like little kids are pretty resilient. They kind of bounce back. But it's those kids who are, 8th grade, 9th grade, sophomore. Those were the kids that we found that they didn't make up the ground that they had lost. And like, unfortunately, like, those were the kids that were struggling the most when they come back. But that means when we're going back, we need to think a lot about how we're engaging those freshmen, those 8th graders, those sophomores, those juniors, because you don't have that much time, right, in high school. Like it goes by really quickly. It's only 4 years. And like they've already lost like a big chunk of this 1 year. And so that's just something I think that people should, especially parents of high schoolers, should think about, is making sure like, what are all the things that we need to do? Because that's probably, in terms of like the disruption and trauma piece, are the most high need kids.
I think that's critically important. A wonderful note to leave us on too, a call to action for, all parents out there, 8th grade and above. Less running room to catch up. We've got to be on top of it.
Yeah.
Our next guest, Carolina, is going to talk about her experience with an older kid as well. We have really been trying to turn the focus. I know a lot of us are scrambling with little kids saying like, how do we keep these folks busy? But our older kids, need to remain a focus, just academically, socially, emotionally, all of these things. We've got to make sure that we're really focused on making sure we figure out what's next for them. So I think a perfect way to leave it. Peter Cook, thank you so much for being with us. You can get his writing, his incredible perspective and lens on education issues, his experience, and it's fantastic. If you go to petercook.com, PE and Co. Can you give us the websites where?
It's peterccook.com. That's it.
Oh, you know what? I'm missing the C.
It's all right. It's all right. No, it's been a huge honor to be on. I'm just so happy to see you, and I'm really impressed and inspired by the work you guys do. And I'm happy that you're healthy, and stay that way, please.
So much love for you. And you know what? We're going to need to ask you more questions. So stay close.
I will.
As this evolves, I think there's a lot to learn from what we saw in New Orleans, and you were right there in the front row and the front seat and doing the work. So we're going to have more questions for you. Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you.
Peter Cook joining us on NPU Live. All right, coming up next is a beautiful friend of mine from here in Massachusetts, but a leader across the country. She is coming to us from Lynn, Massachusetts. She is with the Essex Media Group. She is the editor, the publisher, the queen of La Voz, the incredible newspaper publication for our Spanish-speaking community in Massachusetts. It's based in Lynn. It's Lynn focused, but it's also focused across the state. It's an incredible resource that our Latino community across Massachusetts has been using, especially in this moment where we have become such an incredible hotspot. Carolina Trujillo is with us, and we are so blessed to have her in this moment. She is a mama and a powerhouse, and it's wonderful to see your beautiful face this morning, Carolina. So how are you doing?
You know what? Thank you so much for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to come and talk to National Parents Union. I think it's really, really important that we keep those dialogues open. I was listening to the first presenter, Mr. Cook, and there's a lot of similarities in a different way. How can I say this? So I have an adolescent first year. He's a freshman, I think is what you say. I still don't have those down. I'm from Colombia, and there's no such translation of those things. The freshman, the senior, so I try to keep it to where we're at the moment. I think he's a freshman. So he went to college. He did his first semester. Then he started his second semester, and then he came for spring break, and he was never able to leave.
Mhm.
So we've had him for a couple of months now, and it's been severely traumatic to tell you the truth. And I know that you were posing this question about, is it only us? Do we only see our kids experiencing attitudes? And I don't think it's just you. I think that with younger children, there's a sense of responsibility, I find, of hands-on approach, like helping them with the curricula, making sure they do their readings, making sure they Zoom, they join the Zoom classes when the teacher is doing them, following up with the teachers. Like there's a lot of hands-on work. With a kid who's in college and supposedly has the independent skills to do his work, it's very different. So it's like you have a person in your house who's the roommate, and he's living in isolation, and the mutism is absolute.
Yeah, Carolina, let's get into this. Mama to mama here. I know you and your son have this close, beautiful relationship.
Yes,
you and I have known each other for quite some time. Like, I look to you. I mean, you're a veteran mama, so your relationship with your son, is one that I hope I have with my sons, where he just loves you to pieces. Like it's so beautiful.
Yep.
But as we go through this situation, it's really hard. And I know I'm finding this with my little boys. When you get the attitude, when they're grouchy, and you start to wonder, oh my gosh, are they mad at me? Is it me? Is it something I did?
Yes.
I even with the baby, my youngest, who is 7, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he used to love me so much. He'd give me a hard time. No doubt, my David gives me a hard time, but at the end of the day, he loved me so much. And, we have this beautiful relationship, and I start to worry if it's getting ruined by this situation where we're all on top of each other and stressed out, and mommy is now a teacher and everything else. And, we were having a fight yesterday because I said, I think I want to get you a teacher over the summer, like a tutor, to make sure you don't fall, because I'm very worried about, our babies are prime candidates for the school to prison pipeline. This is life and death stuff. And I want to make sure that they're ready for next year. And I said, baby, I might get you a teacher over the summer. Oh, you hate me. You hate me.
Tutor is a bad word in their world.
And so
tutor is a bad word.
Talk about how that feels in your heart right now.
You know what? It's really bad, because yes, my relationship with my son is a very close one. We've had a very open kind of like, tell me what you feel, I'll tell you what I feel, very open. And we are good at communicating. Like if there's anything that I've encouraged this child to do is to communicate. And for me to say, I'm at the end of the day, I'm the parent and I will make the decisions, but I do want to know how you feel about whatever it is that we're deciding. And I'll take that into consideration as I make the decision for both of us. Mm-hmm. So that's been kind of like our everyday relationship building thing. Now with this isolation, the attitude is by 1,000%. There's mutism, so there is no communication. He has these moments of connection that are not very frequent, but they happen. He comes out, he says, what's up? Oh, hi, or hey, or some weird, not good morning, or like the normal salutation. No, it's just like, hey, some kind of acknowledgement that you would say.
His room. Right? Like
exactly.
A lot of parents, and just from my conversations I've been having with folks, like a lot of kids are like sheltering in place in their own homes. Like they just make their own little bubble. So they're going in their rooms, or they're going in their beds, and they don't want to talk. They don't want to say anything. They're coming out to like grab a bag of chips, and then they're retreating back. Like there's a lot of that happening right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So in my case, I've taken this very personally, like, oh my God, is he hating me? Like, what's going on? We had a beautiful relationship. What happened with that relationship? To the point that I've reached out to people who are psychology majors, like, okay, what's going on? How can I mediate this? And something that I've been told, and I want to share with all of the people who are watching is, they are also struggling. They're also struggling because obviously at that age, they're trying to find their own voice. So they don't really understand what's going on. Not in a way that like they know what's going on, but they don't understand of the parameters when this is going to happen. They're maybe scared of everything. They don't know, the uncertainty is as worried to them that it to us. So they don't know if they're going to be able to go and see their friends at college. And then the second reality for them is they're in college. Like they're free. They get to do whatever they want to do.
You just let him go to try to figure out like, how can I run my own life without my mom, and then you had to yank him back.
Oh no, and it was quite a semester. I mean, the partying and I don't know if there was drinking, maybe not, but whatever it is that he was experiencing, he was quite happy. He hardly ever wanted to come home for anything. So he was happy. And then he has to come back to shelter in place under the guidelines of the parents. It must be very difficult. So part of what they told me was don't take it personal. It's not you. It's not about you. It's about them and finding their voice and really finding their place and finding ways to communicate how angry they are. And of course, like we all have attitudes. So they don't know how to manage and regulate themselves out well at a teenage year. The teenage brain is not equipped
to not fully mature yet.
Exactly. So you are expecting something that he's not able to give you, not at this moment, under these circumstances. So it's not you, it's not your relationship. Eventually, once things go back to normal, he grows a little, his brain matures, then you're gonna have, and we were experiencing the detachment since he left.
Well, Carolina, you remember how it was when you were at stage 2. I remember, I knew everything. I knew
absolutely.
I think, I was maybe 27 when I was finally willing to say, well, maybe my parents know a couple of things.
But maybe they're not idiots. That's like, what I said. Okay. Maybe my mom has something to offer.
Yeah. Like, this is like the period anyway. And then you got to be on top of each other. Like I have seen this, frankly, hopefully some of our parent leaders from our network across the country aren't going to kill me for calling out, but one of our leaders in particular, was just saying like she had brought her daughter home from college, flew her in, and 2 queens could not live in the house. So she went back and like got her own little apartment, her own little situation where she could, shelter, but having them in the house after having a couple years away, like they're just not in the space. And that makes sense. I mean, I'm thinking about a mother and son, but like 2 women too in that space where you're trying
that must be harder. That must be harder.
So hard. So I think it just does us all some good to take a deep breath, because that piece of it where we're beating ourselves up and saying, oh my gosh, what are we doing? I mean, even with the little boys, yesterday we went for a walk and it was torture. I swear, you would think we were waterboarding these kids because we went down the street and took them for a walk around the block. Everyone's tired and it's too hot, and why do you make me do this? And I just want to sit inside, like just to go outside in the beautiful sunshine. And you get back and you're like, oh gosh, what am I doing to these kids?
And there's no engagement. So like you try to, when my son was little, I would bribe him, like, oh, what is the movie you wanted to watch? Or what food is it that you wanted to get? We should go for that. Like I try to maintain that connection through things he wanted to do. So I would jump in and watch, I don't know, any kind of the movie because he wanted to go watch it, or eat anything because he wanted to eat it. Now, no. Do you want to go get something that I know he loves? Do you want to go? I'm all set.
No.
I'm all set. I'm all set. Okay. What do you eat? Like, wind? Is that what you win? Air? Like, what is it that you're consuming? I'll eat cereal. It makes me crazy. Like, I'm offering you food and you're saying, I'm all set. I'll eat cereal. Okay, we've decided when he's hungry, he'll request food, like he'll ask for food, he'll say, I'm hungry, whatever. And we've left it alone.
Like when they're babies, when they refuse to eat because they're teething or whatever, or they're just like, they're learning that the one thing that they can't control is whether or not they swallow food. And so they're take that control.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it's like the same thing where we got to be like, okay, when they're hungry, they will eat. They will come out. If
absolutely.
there's no food in their room, they must come out and eat. Like, it's so funny that we're back there again.
It's sad in a way, because you expect so much about these relationships and this time that you get to spend. Like, it's going to be difficult for him when he transitioned to college. It was really bad. So my goal was a non-traumatic transition for him. So I was going to maintain my place, not cry, just keep it together for him to be able to go and just be like, enjoy this moment that you're leaving. I was a mess when we came home. I was a mess for a while, to the point that first semester, I think I cried almost every night because he's my only kid. Like, it's been him and I. So I cried every night. Then he comes back and I'm like, oh my God, we're here again.
My baby, yeah.
And it's horrible. I almost wish he could go away.
Yeah.
If I could pay the school to take him, please take him. He will be happier and I would be happier. But at the same time, it's like, oh my God, such a waste of opportunities here. Like, this could be a good moment. Like, I read people saying, oh, we're introspecting and we're as a family reconnecting, and I'm like,
that's all that Facebook, Instagram crap. I don't believe that for a minute. Okay,
it's happening. It's not happening in my house.
Real about what is happening. Okay, you
I
can
know.
beautiful little Facebook, BS, like, oh, we took this beautiful picture. Like, how many times did you have to take that picture before you got to that perfect one?
Yep.
Life is messy. Life is not easy. We're all human beings. And, I think what I'm hoping is, and I'm starting to see, I don't know if you're seeing this on social media too, where people are like, you're not seeing like always that constant rosy picture of like everything perfect and beautiful. Like, maybe we get back to our humanity. Maybe we get back to our realness and our authenticity. Because I got to tell you something, the most important thing that we do every morning on this broadcast, or at noon in Spanish, or with the special needs broadcast, or with our social notion, we got a whole bunch of programming that we do here, is make sure that we're not going through this alone in isolation, that we connect with each other in a human and very authentic way. We are not perfect. Yep. We are all trying to figure this out. And what we need in this moment is grace. What we need in this moment is connection, however we can get it. And if we're trying to hold ourselves up to this unrealistic standard, where parents are suddenly teachers and we're everything, we cannot be everything to everyone. The most important thing that we hold on to in this moment is the fabric of our families and our humanity. And if we can offer that through what we're doing here, and having parents be very real, saying, I'm struggling right now, like, this is a hot mess and I don't know. And, if we can offer that, so that some other parent across the country is saying, Carolina, oh my gosh, I am feeling that in this moment. And I'm so glad I am not the only one. We're not going to beat each other up, in our heads. It's a dangerous place to sit by yourself. It's especially in a moment of trauma that we're all going through, and nobody has the answers right now. And I think the more we admit that and stop trying to live this Instagram life where everything is perfect, that is, I think, the most healthy thing we can do right now. I know, this whole expectation that we're going to come out of here. And I understand if people want to pick up a skill and they want to read a book, some people are trying to live day by day. Yeah. It's not about picking a skill and reading a book and learning something new. It's about keeping it together. One more day. Learning a skill in this moment is a privilege. And I want to turn it to that right now, because we have to take advantage of the fact that you are this brilliant leader in our community, not just in Lynn, but across the state, and frankly, across the country. The work that you're doing as a scholar, as a leader, it's extraordinary. So I got to pivot you to this in this moment. There are so many folks struggling, and it is a privilege to be bored, to sit at home, to be able to work from home. There are so many of us who cannot do that in this moment. Absolutely. Whether you just lost your job and you're trying to file for unemployment, because that is a struggle, trying to get through the website, the telephone, being on there for 8.5 hours, not knowing if you're going to be able to, like, going to the mailbox a million times. So when is that check coming? I need that money. That is a struggle right now. There are parents, like, or there are families, we are the frontline essential workers. We're the folks in the grocery store, the Instacart workers, the folks that are keeping, the folks working in the pharmacy, the folks that are the housekeepers working in the hospitals, exposing our families to try to keep things running. And then, you know, if you are working at home, like all of these expectations, it's a struggle. And you right now are in the center of a hot spot. And the Latino community, period, is a hotspot, disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. But Lynn, Massachusetts, Chelsea, Massachusetts, you know, Brooklyn, New York, like these places where our community lives, and we're seeing a disproportionate impact, and the struggle is just so much greater. So talk to us about what you're seeing there and some of the real life stories that you're experiencing from your perch as being a leader and just getting community resources and information out to all of us.
Absolutely. So La Voz, through the newspaper, we've been able to maintain our community informed. I think that information is power. And you mentioned something very important. So for people who are able to apply for unemployment, at least, even though it's a process that it's time consuming and sometimes you're unsuccessful, you can continue to try until you become eligible and you do everything. Most of the community in Lynn are not eligible because they're undocumented. So these people are not even considering that they're going to receive any type of subsidy from the federal government. Neither did they receive the $1,200 subsidy check that the president. I have issues with saying that word. I'm sorry, that's my own biases. That Donald Trump did send to people. But right now, there's a lot of struggle in the Latino community. COVID-19 has a way of kind of like unveiling all the discrepancies socioeconomically that we have, the disparities that we face as Latinos in this country, especially the undocumented part of the people that are here. We have situations where, of course, we're a hotspot because we have different families living under the same roof. So we have 2 and 3 and 4 families sheltering in place together. And of course, it's gonna spread like wildfire. But at the same time, we have to be very careful with that messaging because there's a lot of racism. Unfortunately, we're experiencing a lot of hate crimes right now. And not only in Lynn, I think nationwide, we're seeing there's an influx of hate crimes. And we just don't want to label our community as the reason why this virus became such a hot issue in this city. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to tell people, yeah, it's because of the poor people who by need have to live with other people in order to afford the ongoing issue with rent, because we know housing insecurity is a national issue as well. They have to shelter, they have to survive. And they're the cause now. So let's kind of like give them one more label to deal with. I don't want to do that, but it's a reality. We have a lot of people who are not taking this seriously, who just feel that social separation is a joke, that they should not be wearing masks because it's part of their rights to choose what they wear and what they not. I mean, there is a lot of there's a lot of argument on what we have to do. And I think that comes from not having a very clear messaging from the top down. I think the message has been skewed. Yep.
This has been an absolute failure of leadership.
Absolutely.
At all levels. Like, certainly you're seeing it from Donald Trump, where, you know, a coordinated federal response to this,
yes,
it's a no-brainer. It should have happened from the very beginning. And when we go back and there's a forensic analysis of all of the catastrophic failures that led us to the point where we are now, I don't even know. Like, I don't even think we know how bad it truly was, but we are having to pay the price, unfortunately. Yep. But we also see it educationally as well. You know, I have been pushing the Commissioner of Education a strong, coordinated, structured response. What period are we in now? Is this remote learning or is this emergency education? You are not going to turn every parent in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts into a teacher in 6 months and have an expectation that we are going to be able to hold it down and hold it down. It's just not, it doesn't make any sense. What do we do now to mitigate learning loss? And what I want you guys as educational experts to be coming up with a world-class plan to help our children once we feel comfortable enough to give them back to you.
And that's
leadership failure all over the place.
Absolutely. And that's with children who actually have the structure and the infrastructure, the equipment, the internet to be able to at least have some kind of follow some curricula. In this city where I live, we now face an extra layer of difficulty. I just recently interviewed one of the people in the school committee, and he's saying that they had some computers that they were able to distribute to some of the seniors because they need to complete their required work in order for them to graduate. And then they order 5,000 computers that we don't know when they're going to come here, because now they have to select out of all the people in the school community who gets the 5,000 computers, because, and it's based on need. So parents who have 3 kids, all of them have to study. They have 1 computer or they have no computer. They have no internet at home. They have internet on their cell phone. So now they have all these packets that kids are picking up in order to continue their curve of learning. So the expectation is not the same in Lynn as it is in Newton, Massachusetts, for example, where people just rolled over. Okay, yeah, we're going to virtual learning. Everybody take out their laptop. We have a teacher, a tutor, and immediately people picked up. That's not our reality here.
And why we are having our communities, you know, deal with this piecemeal when we have a Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. I mean, in Lynn, you know, what gives me hope is the fact that you have Pat Tutwiler, who is a dear friend.
He has been such a leader.
And that's why I think, you know, I think there's an important lesson that is going to emerge from Lynn, that having a guy like Pat, who understands the context of parents, the pain of parents, you know, Pat, and, you know, frankly, how Pat grew up and his mama and having a strong mama, like he gets it in a way. Because
he understands.
He is brilliant, and he's also a man of color who has the context and the understanding, like the right man to lead Lynn at this moment. But he needs resources and direction, and frankly, you know, an equity lens coming from DESE, so that he's equipped, so that there's additional resources flooding into Lynn at this moment, so that he's not struggling to get 5,000 computers and having to pick piecemeal. Every kid in Lynn deserves to have access to the same quality of education and resources that those kids in Newton get, because God bless those kids in Newton, but they are not worth more than our babies in Lynn.
Oh, no, absolutely.
In Chelsea either. Like, this is where the inequity actually comes forward in what works me most. And there's so much to worry about in our communities.
And then Keri,
the long-term impact of it.
Absolutely. And then you have the aftermath. So we go over this and then we go back to normal. And then we have kids who are obviously going to be left behind because they already were doing poorly in school. So the results were not there. So even when this started, their grades were failing. So they were not getting a lot. Now you go back and they have to start from a point of deficiency, right? And then they don't have the parents to advocate, because we have working class parents that need to be out, that it's not that they don't care. Like, you can't imagine the amount of emails I get daily on the newspaper in Spanish saying, what is it that I have to do with my kid? He's out of school, but I have no idea. Like, we've been sending these messages out on Facebook, in Spanish, in print media, through community, and yet there are parents who have no idea that they have to go and pick up a packet, or that there's a website where the kid can download information to continue their coursework. They have no idea, because they are the essential workers, but not the ones that are being glorified. and I don't have anything against our medical community. I am thankful for their skill set and thankful they're saving lives. But guess what? Without the lady who cleans the damn hospitals, there wouldn't be no medical community being able to do their job. Those are not the ones that are being glorified. And those are the ones that we have here.
And I think that's why the work that you do is so critically important. And in our conversation with state chiefs across the country, who are saying, finally admitting, in this moment, because there's always this indictment of parents don't care, parents don't engage.
Exactly.
Parent activists always push back. I'm sorry, you're never going to tell me that a mama that works 3 jobs does not care about
Does not care.
I think she's working those 3 jobs. Sorry, she can't show up when it's convenient for you during banker's hours. She is not a banker. She is a housekeeper, and she is working like hell to take care of those babies. You cannot convince me that is not a mama who cares. What I'm saying to these state chiefs right now is, it is time to get over ego, to admit that you do not know how to really find those meaningful connections for a whole plethora of reasons, whether it's language issues, cultural competency, lack of knowledge of the community and where those connections exist, because La Voz is a critical piece to making sure that parents understand where they get that information. Why are parents reaching out to you? Because it's an ethnic media outlet that speaks to them and understands them, and they trust them. So all state chiefs out there, and I know many of them are watching, whether you are in Indiana, whether you are in Washington State, whether you're in Tennessee, I know these folks are paying attention, engaging ethnic media and making sure you are speaking directly to community and not assuming that you know how to do it, but asking folks like Carolina for help. That is what we need in this moment, because our families need your information and they need that connection. And Carolina, you're willing to help.
Absolutely. We do it all the time. And you know what? This is a critical moment for centralized local media, because that's the other thing. We have these channels, like it aggravates me so much. Every time there's a shooting in Lynn, we have Channel 7, we have Channel 5, we have everybody and their mom is here saying that there was a shooting in Lynn, but yet they don't report on anything else but the shootings and the gangs and everything horrible about Lynn, kind of like continuing the negative image about the city. But right now, parents, we have tons of national news. We know what's going in Washington. We know what's happening in Florida. But how many people know, or how many news are going to broadcast about what Pat Tutwiler is doing? Nobody. Only La Voz and the Daily Item are the ones keeping a finger on everything that has to do with our local communities. And I think that right now, this is a national broadcast. It's very important for people to go to their local newspapers, their local broadcasters, because they are the ones who are going to help the parents. They're reaching out to me. They're not reaching out to Channel 25 to tell them where can I get the school packet for my kid? And I live in Lynn and I'm in Ward 6, because they wouldn't know. So right now, more than ever, it's critical. And I know we're slowly disappearing. Centralized media is slowly disappearing, but it's critical. Now more than ever, we've basically proven our worth. Yes. Because otherwise people in Lynn wouldn't know. They wouldn't know. They wouldn't know who to reach out to, especially in Spanish. So
we see you, we value you. And, in this moment, you are doing essential work. Like, you are doing frontline, essential, critical work, communicating with our families. We are so grateful that, you are there, that we take your resources and try to do our work to disseminate them with parents and connect you with them. And, it's making me emotional just thinking about how critically important, and my lens, I come from local, like really hyper local radio, and how critically important those conversations were, and that news connection in English and Spanish and Portuguese and Haitian Creole. It's critical in this moment, because that's what families trust. You have the relationships. And so I want to encourage, our elected officials, our leaders on all levels to think about this incredible resource, the work that you are doing on the front lines, because that's how families are getting information about health, about unemployment, about housing assistance, about education, everything. And it's critically important. So we celebrate you, we lift you up, we see you, we thank you so much for your work every single day, and continue. I know it's hard. it's hard on all fronts, but we love you, and we're so grateful for all the work that you're doing every single day, Carolina.
Thank you so much. I totally love what I do. I love my community, and anything that we can do as Latinos to support each other, right? Especially now, we have to do. It's a must. We have to be together. I always say, unidos somos más, together we are more. And our voices become stronger when we have more people saying the same thing. So this is a time of unity. And I think that more than ever, we have to really look at the inequities. We have to really mitigate those. And we really have to advocate for everyone, because we're all in it together. This is not about having one people and the other people. We're all in it together.
Carolina, I hope this is the first of our conversations. We love you so much. And we want to have you back to talk about Just Test, a new campaign that we're going to be launching with the National Parents Union. We know that our communities have been disproportionately impacted by the COVID-19 positive test results. Whether our communities are actually getting the testing, that is something we're going to have to stand together and fight for, because
Absolutely.
about you, but I suspect that we're not getting enough access. So we'll talk more about that. Carolina Trujillo, who is joining us from Lynn, Massachusetts. She is the editor-in-chief. Am I giving you the right title? Publisher, editor-in-chief.
Publisher.
Yeah, publisher, which is, I get confused with my newspaper terms.
Yep, I hear you.
Radio.
Tell me about it.
Publisher, editor-in-chief, Queen Bee of Lavos. And
That's it. That's the one she likes.
She is an extraordinary leader in Essex Media Group, doing that in critical work again.
Most important job that I have, I tell my kid all the time, the most important role that I have that God gave me is mom. It's the one thing that he doesn't call me mom.
He'll get there. He'll get back there, Mama. Yeah, that sounds familiar.
I like who. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, where have we heard that
There you
one
go.
before? Thank you, Carolina. And it's
Thank
been
you so
another
much.
wonderful edition of NPU Live. Thank you so much for being with us on this Monday.
That's right.
Week 8 of the quarantine. We are committed. We are staying with you and bringing you news, information, connection, resources, anything we can to keep us together, to keep us strong as a parent community. Bringing you all of the information that you need to get through another week. And I hope you'll join us at noon for NPU Live in Espanol, and also 2 o'clock, Christina Laster for our families with special needs. 9 o'clock, join with Marisol Rarucha for our social and emotional parent debrief. Shake it all off.
That's right.
Get through it. Our kids have attitudes.
That's right.
And,
They do. They do.
No sign of slowing down anytime soon, but we're going to figure it out together, damn it.
That's right.
We have no other choice.
No, we're stuck with them.
That's right.
But also too, before we sign off, happy, and I think this is a special time this year, a happy Teacher Appreciation Week. And that's just that's for all teachers out there, including the new teachers, myself,
Parents.
you, and
That's
the parents as well.
So we're going to be bringing you some ideas about how you can celebrate your new role as a teacher.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, brand new teachers everywhere. You're doing one hell of a job. We love you.
Have a great day, everyone.